Hey everybody, I'm here doing another tell me about your books and everything with Vanessa Kramer here. I am pronouncing the last name right.
Yes.
Okay, good. We're here at Katie's Books again, just a great independent local bookstore here in the Lee Summit. If any of you are in the area want to check out a good independent bookstore, they're letting us use the space and they have a lot of good selection of books here. Come by, check them out. Just to say thanks for letting us do all of this. And yeah, I'm here with Vanessa Kramer, author of 4 books so far, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We found you. We found you at the. Where did we see you first? The Sparkling. What is that group called? Sparkling Imagination.
Sparking Ambition.
Yeah, that
At
one.
Karma, yeah.
Yeah, the Karma Market. Yeah, and picked your books up. My wife actually hunted down your books and read them all first. And yeah, naturally, at being a theology major, these books really stood out to me. So look forward to get back to try to talk to you, prick your mind on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So just start off, where did you get the inspiration for these books?
So this was originally going to be a standalone book. I had no intention of writing anything else besides Great Divide. After I finished it, I had multiple people tell me there's no way that this is how the story ends. So I wrote Great Desolation with the intention of that kind of being the finale. And then yet again, I had people come up to me and they're like, that cannot be how the story ends. I need more. So I'm currently writing the third and definitely final book of the series. But Great Divide started off with a nightmare that I had. And since you've read it, it's actually the nightmare that involves the snakes biting her.
Oh, really?
If you remember.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Was that the one she was on the hospital bed?
No.
Okay, that's a different one.
Yes. There's a knife involved in that nightmare.
Okay.
It's very graphic. It was a nightmare that I had, and I woke up super disturbed and unsettled by it, and I wrote it down. And I was like, because I'm always trying to figure out, like, why am I dreaming this? Like, normal people don't dream this, like, kind of messed up stuff that I dream sometimes. And so I wrote it down and I was like, I wonder if I could, like, turn this into a story somehow. And at the time, years ago, when I first started writing Great Divide, it was actually going to be a Twilight type story. Instead of a vampire, a demon love interest. And I got through the entire book and I just ended up hating it. And so I deleted like half of a book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I read it and I was like, even though I am still, I will admit, I'm still a fan of the Twilight series. My husband and I watch the movies at least once a year. I know.
Why do you do that to yourself?
I know. They're so bad they're good. It's entertaining. But I did really love the books as a teenager. And so at the time when I was first writing it, I was like, I could do like a teen romance, like supernatural romance type book. And I didn't like it. I'm like such a horror fan that it wasn't dark enough for my liking. And so, yeah, I deleted half of the book and fortunately, not fortunately, my husband and my sons got COVID. And so I was like separated from them for a week in my bedroom by myself. And I wrote like 40,000 words because I was just like by
Nothing
myself.
Else better to do. Yeah.
I like had worn myself out watching like everything on Netflix. And so I went back to writing it and that's what came out of it.
Yeah. No, I had a fairly similar story. The novel that I wrote back in college when the college work I had didn't keep me busy enough and I was out of the job trying to look for a job and you can only apply to so many jobs before you can't do anything else for the day. So I'm like, I have the story in my head, clickety clack, there it is. So yeah, fairly similar, but I know in your author bio, you had mentioned it came from a dream. I was just curious, like which one, where, how, but no, it's normal to have dark dreams. It's just people don't talk about them because as Americans, we don't talk about bad things and scary things.
Yes.
So it's actually fairly normal, but that's still pretty cool. Another thing, you were pretty specific. I noticed, especially in Great Divide, you were pretty specific about some of the medical issues that Emma went through. Like, how much of those were from your personal life, and how much of those did you get from just, oh, this would be cool. What is this like? And looking it up.
So my mom had colon cancer. She was diagnosed in 2010, the year I got married. I should know that year.
That's fun.
Yeah, so I'm planning a wedding, and then my mom got diagnosed with cancer. So that was a lot to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, her stuff kind of develops, progresses, gets worse. So I took a lot of that, the chemotherapy part, from what my mom shared with me.
Mm-hmm.
The Crohn's disease, I actually went to school with this guy named Jesse. A lot of people at our high school knew him because he was the lead singer in a band that was like popular.
Okay.
It was a group of boys from our high school. So I know like a lot of the girls at our school, like thought they were like hot musician boys. And, I really connected with Jesse like after high school, just kind of being two like creatives and stuff and getting to know each other more like as adults. And Jesse had Crohn's disease and it developed to where he had to have a colostomy bag. And so when I started researching Crohn's disease, I'm really big on research. I love learning stuff. So I learned all the medical stuff, like just doing research online, but I messaged him and I was like, hey, can I kind of pick your brain? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable talking about it? And he was actually really cool about the whole thing. He just recently passed away, actually.
Dang. That sucks.
Yeah. So now a part of Great Divide kind of means something a little more special because the person who helped me create that part of Emma isn't with us anymore.
Is in the afterlife.
Yeah. And so it's really sad. He left behind a wife and a little girl, and he was really big on speaking out about disabilities. He was going to start actually playing shows again. He was in a car crash years ago, so he was wheelchair bound.
Oh, dang.
Also, I mean, toughest guy I've ever met, has just been through so much medically, and you would never know it. He just always had a smile on his face, was always like looking out for people who didn't have a voice. And so yeah, it's kind of cool that I get to kind of have that part of him live in my book.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Because I even, especially reading through Great Divide, some of the details and stuff you gave in there, was like, how much of this is lived experience and how much of this is like just really good research, because you almost couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Or at least I couldn't.
Again, I'm a huge researcher. I love I'll have a scene that is literally just like a couple page scene, but I want it to feel as authentic as possible. So even though I'm only writing a couple pages, I will research it for like a week to make sure I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I even noticed like some of the stories with Sekhmet and some of the others, it's like you kind of know, it's kind of easy to tell like you did at least a little bit of research on it, if not like studying the whole mythology behind it.
Yes.
So yeah, it kind of shows. It's pretty cool. But yeah, also, where did you get, again, the theology major? You kind of pricked my interest in a lot of your stuff here. So I'm curious where you got the idea for a lot of your stuff. You're like one thing I noticed and I'm going to throw around like the heresy word a lot. It's not a personal attack. I'm just joking around because I know there are people who are going to think like that. But like, as much as I disagree with the only good people go to heaven and only bad people go to hell stuff, you were extremely consistent with that in these books. I forget. Like I loved it. I loved in Great Divide where he even talked about how there were some like preachers and how stuff like that who think they're going to heaven, but like everybody here knows that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But like, where did you come up with that as a standard getting into heaven instead of meeting St. Peter at the gates?
So I grew up Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, very, very strict upbringing. There were so many rules on what made you a good Christian, what made you a good Catholic. Any mess up, minor or major, had to go to confession every week. And as a kid, it scared me. Like I enjoyed going to church,
Mother fell back.
but I've struggled so much with like what makes a person good, like a good person, and what makes them a good Christian, because those two,
They're not all. It's not always delivered as the same.
yes, and I think in my books I have like several examples, like with Sekhmet and her background. She's killed by priests, and in their mind, they're doing the work of the gods because they're from ancient Egypt, so they believe in multiple gods, and they think that they're doing what is religiously right. But because they hurt people and are not good people, they don't go to heaven. They wind up in hell. And so that reflects a lot on what I believe. I think just because you go to church every weekend, or you read your Bible every day, or you pray every night, that's not your ticket. Being a good person and treating people well and treating people with love and understanding, that is what makes you a follower of Jesus.
Yeah, and that concept you built is a fairly common idea of like even a lot of people who like never set foot in a church hold the idea like if I do enough good things, I'll go to the good place, but if I do enough bad things, I'll go to the bad place. So that's a fairly common thing, and yeah, is the biblical answer of like what sin, like there's only one sin that sends you straight to hell, and that's where one issue I have with Catholicism is their breakdown between what is it called, like regular sins and mortal sins, and then there's the cardinal sins. But like if you look in the Bible, now granted as a Protestant, I don't see the Apocrypha as part of Scripture, but like there's only one sin specifically that sends somebody to hell, and we don't know what it is. And I think it's intentional left blank like that, so we don't focus on that. But yeah, the biblical answer is like accepting Jesus' work on the cross is what sends you to heaven, and not having the wrong skin color or something stupid like that. But yeah, I loved how, like, even though I disagreed with that premise, like you built the whole story around that premise. You stayed very consistent with that, which is a pretty cool thing. You kind of explained that the Catholic frameworks and everything in there. Like, I thought it was interesting how the afterlife was set up kind of like the Divine Comedy. I've never read the Divine Comedy, but like yeah, the idea of like the waiting room for heaven and hell, and like the Sea of Anathema and all that stuff is pretty cool. Do you remember where specifically you grabbed some of those things just from your head, or?
I mean, Dante's Inferno was an inspiration, which I love that you picked up on that. Also, again, growing up Catholic, the whole limbo and purgatory, that's a really big ingrained thing growing up Catholic.
Yes.
Again, going back to my upbringing, my kids are now baptized. They chose to get baptized.
Okay.
I was never going to do it for them because that decision was made for me. I was baptized as an infant.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, my grandma told me how sad she was that my two sons and my husband weren't going to go to heaven when they died because they hadn't been baptized.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, all the rules, man. I mean, like, my kids are so innocent. I mean, they're troublemakers and can be little monsters, yes, especially with each other.
Yeah.
But they are innocent. They have never sinned. They do typical, like, bad kid stuff, but, like, overall, they're good kids. And so, like, the fact that there are people out there that think that God forbid, like a child dies. I know it happens. But like if a kid isn't baptized, they don't go to God's kingdom when they die. And I just,
You don't find that in the Bible.
yeah, yeah, that's a very man-made concept,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I have a lot of issues with religion. Like, I'm still very much Christian. I've had people ask my mom, like, is your daughter a Wiccan, like reading these books? Like, no, I am a Christian. I don't go to church anymore. I still have a lot of issues with organized religion, but all of my problems are with man.
Mm-hmm.
They're not with God. I love God. I love Jesus. I love the teachings of Jesus. My kids ask me questions about religion quite often, and the stuff that I can answer, I do.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff I can't answer, I either tell them, you're not at an age where you can really understand that yet. We can watch a YouTube video. There's actually a YouTube channel, and I can't ever remember the name of it, but they do like animated stories from the Bible.
Okay.
And it's really, really good. I wish I could remember the name off the top of my head, but I can send it to you later.
Okay.
But
sounds like something Gospel Coalition or some people like that do.
Yeah. And I think gospel is in the name of it. I can't remember, but I have had different versions of the Bible before. What's like the cool one? The Word.
Depends on your definition of cool.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, like, there's the message, there's the passion.
The message. Yeah, the message. But like I've let my oldest son read that one just because NIV is kind of not as like for a kid to understand.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
He's also looked at the comic book.
The Action Bible?
Yes.
The Epic Bible is actually done by DC artists.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been sporadically reading through that, but yeah, it's actual DC artists that illustrate it. It's pretty good.
Ooh,
but yeah,
we may have to check that one out instead because neither of my kids are readers, which as an author is devastating.
You have to let them come to it.
I know. I'm trying not to pressure them. When I don't bring up reading, my youngest wants to read, but anytime I'm like, let's do some reading time, and he's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
So if I let him, he reads on his own, but my oldest only reads graphic novels and manga.
Okay.
Which I know reading is reading, but again, as an author, I'm like, when I was your age, I was starting to read Stephen King. And I know that's like,
part of your problem.
Yeah, I've always had like a higher reading level for my age. So yeah, I got into Stephen King in middle school, which is probably not healthy, but reading is reading.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to try out like a graphic novel Bible for him because I don't know. I think that would be.
It's a good starting point. Well, even me, like say not to bump the microphone, but yeah, let's see if this works. Yeah, like even what I've done for a while is like I've always read, but like it still takes like being ADHD. It does take a certain mental strain out of me that I can't always give. But I found that reading graphic novels, mangas is good for me at bedtime because my mind doesn't recognize it as reading because it's picture with some words.
Yes.
And so another thing that might be fun is the manga classics. It's like Mark Twain, Count of Monte Cristo. I always mess it up. Yeah, it's the classics, but done with by anime artists.
Huh.
I'm reading through. I read through the Count of Monte, whatever, the French one. I read through that, and it was really good. And I'm working on Huck Finn right now.
Okay.
So like, look some of those up too. He might enjoy some of those. That might be the only way he'll read the classics.
And he is ADHD, so
yeah.
That makes sense.
There's some advice to help. Another question, working the way down the line, like in Great Desolation, you picked up chapter 9 specifically. Like I was kind of like I had to work through like, okay, this is fiction. This is not real. Okay, this is not this is fiction. But like where you put in there that Jesus wasn't actually the Son of God and his whole life, his miracles and everything was a lie or made up story. Like, where did you pull those ideas and inferences from? Just your head, or did you get them from other works?
Mostly my head. Again, it is fiction, and so like my friends who do still go to church and everything, when they hit that chapter, they were like, "What is this?" And I promise you, the last book, when it comes out, that chapter will make so much sense. It is definitely laying groundwork for something like a really big reveal in the last book. But yeah, a lot of people are always like, that chapter is so random, and why did you do that? Because that's not what you think. And I'm like, yeah, well, this is fiction.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Like, Sekhmet isn't, as far as I know, real either.
Yes.
But she's my favorite character in these books. But it is fiction. It is made up. The reason why I had that chapter in there is because, so he isn't portrayed as the son of God. Mm-hmm. He is Mary and Joseph's child. Mm-hmm. Like, he is their son. But in my books, I have the option of, when you die, if you're a good person, when you die, you can either go to paradise and just live blissfully for eternity, with all the favorite things from your life and all the favorite people from your life, or you can choose to go back and like either try again, or just see like a different version of life through different eyes or whatever.
But you don't necessarily have your memories.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the soul who becomes Jesus in this book is this person who chooses to go back every time because they want to do their best to make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. And God sees that, and he's like, this soul does actually do that. Like, every time the soul goes mm-hmm. back reincarnated, they live this just like pure life where they give to other people and they do their best to make the world a better place. And I really care about this soul specifically. And so God gifts Jesus divine powers. Mm-hmm. But Jesus is a human still, and doesn't know like what to do with these things. And actually, I have a really interesting spin on this, that God can communicate with humans if he wants to, cannot with Jesus, because he has put a part of himself in Jesus, and so it's blocked that divine communication. But on the other side of that, Satan has realized that he also can't really like see this soul.
Yeah.
And so he sends demons to tempt him and be like, what are you? Because like, you are a human, but like there's something weird about you. And so because God can't communicate with him, he can't tell him like, hey, I've gifted you these powers, do something with it. And so like stuff that happens with Jesus in that chapter is sort of like more accidental, because he doesn't really know that he has like these untapped powers, and God can't be like, hey,
I gave you this, do good with it. Yeah.
Do something. Like, you're such a good soul. Like, use this to do better mm-hmm. and show people. So like they'll follow me and want to go to heaven and all this stuff, or paradise. I specifically use paradise because I think in my books, heaven is more of like the man-made like
concept. Yeah.
So paradise. But so Jesus, after John the Baptist is killed, he's like, I need a break.
Yeah.
I need a reset. This is too much. Mm-hmm. I'm just a man. I can't live a normal life because the stuff that keeps like accidentally happening, you guys are making like a super huge deal about it.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to think that I'm like this big deal that I'm not, mm-hmm. which he is. He just doesn't realize it. So he takes his little vacation away from all this stuff and meets a woman, falls in love with her. And I know it's very like anti-Christianity to believe that Jesus falls in love with someone and marries them and has a family and stuff. But again, the whole going back to like God is love, like I have a really hard time believing that this 30-something-year-old guy, I know he made his life like all about serving God
Mhm.
and like getting people to believe in God and follow him and stuff. But I just have like such a hard time believing that he wasn't also a guy
Well, yeah.
with a heart. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, so in my book, he does meet a woman. And it's so funny because he's like this great speaker, but like he meets this woman and just like is like fumbling over his words and acting like such an idiot. And it's like this being with divine powers and can't talk to a girl.
Yeah. It's entirely believable. Yeah.
Yeah. So he secretly marries her, and she kind of like lives as like a servant on his parents' land and stuff. And the only people that know she's his wife are his disciples.
Mhm.
And so she has a kid, and then she's pregnant with another kid, but he doesn't know it yet. But the whole betrayal and crucifixion, she knows it's happening. Like, and he's so oblivious. He's like, oh, it's fine. Like, these people are welcoming me and they're calling me like King of Kings and they're calling me Lord. And she's like, that's not a good thing because like the king doesn't like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, all these people got my back. We're good. You're safe. The baby's safe. We're fine. And so he gets crucified. And she goes into hiding and she's safe. But when Jesus goes to sentencing and then paradise, he like meets with God basically, and God's like, I'm never sending you back to earth. Like, I cannot believe this was like the best scenario for you and they killed you. And Jesus was like, well, I know, but like, it's not their fault. They just don't understand. Like, don't be mad at them. And he was like, well, I can't let you out of my sight now. So he becomes this father, like overbearing parent, and keeps Jesus in paradise. So this soul that has like wanted to go back and do all these good things for humanity and stuff doesn't get that opportunity again, because God's like, there's no way. Like, if they did this to you in this state, like I can't watch that again.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is like, well, let me go back long enough to tell my friends, like, I'm fine. Like, don't feel bad. Don't freak out. Don't be sorry for me. And so that brings in like the whole him going back just to tell his buds, like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But I like the concept of Jesus and the whole like jumpstart into Christianity. The angels think that, oh, this is good for us. Like, this is going to get people to like come to paradise more, and hell's not going to have hardly anybody because of Jesus. And look at this religion that is all about like following what he had to say. And then, you know, stuff like the Crusades happen.
Yeah.
And all these people doing God's work to hurt other people. And so it kind of backfires a little bit, which the demons are like,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
So
let's have 15 of them.
Yeah. So yeah, I know that chapter raises a lot of eyebrows, but the whole concept of it is you can be like the best person and treat people so kindly, and it still may not be good enough. And even it being Jesus and having access to all these like powers that, I mean, with one just like miracle that he purposely does, could have a bunch of new followers.
Yeah.
But I think it's a better example of having faith.
Okay.
And not having to see something to believe in it.
Yeah.
And I know it's a controversial chapter, but again, it is fiction. It's not really like what I believe in real life, but it was fun.
Yeah. Well, and I after reading the whole work, I see again you were surprisingly consistent in a lot of the stuff. Like, even when I disagree with, like, it was good world building for your story, because you towards the end of Great Desolation, when everything goes to crap, like, you have Emma in the same position like that Jesus was, like, what am I here? What am I doing here? And God just says, like, I have you here for a purpose. Just see what it is. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And like, just to be clear, like, you're not trying to be like Joseph Smith and start something new, are you? Yeah. So like that, that like, I have so many, like, I have so many people I'm around, friends, stuff that would like see this on the level of the Da Vinci Code. It's like, I know you're not trying to start anything, they're just stating that plainly obvious. So like, yeah. So like, if you can get that idea, get the Bible out of your butt and stuff, this is good stuff. This is pretty cool stories. And yeah, I noticed that I was like, why chapter 9 kind of felt like out of nowhere, but later on when she was having her come to God moment, it like both those scenes made sense, which was pretty cool. And I also noticed themes of like dualism in there, where like God and Satan are on the same level competing. Like, did you pull that from like other mythologies, or is that still stuff you're working through in your head?
So I'm a big movie buff, so there's like a lot of that in cinema. Constantine is a really big inspiration for this story, and that's the whole premise of that movie. And I know it's based off of a comic book, but I haven't gotten through them. I have no idea what the comic books are like. But the movie, which if you have not seen it, I highly recommend it because Keanu Reeves is chef's kiss. But the whole premise of that is God and the devil having this wager of getting souls and everything. And really, because God backs off so much after Jesus is crucified, really the bosses of paradise are the archangels. Mm-hmm. And there's like a lot of elitism with them, and they're not like super friendly to the other angels. But it's more so the angels and demons are kind of doing this to honor their superiors.
Yeah.
And Satan will show up in great devotion, but a lot of the like team rivalry, I guess in it is kind of more so on those like serving them more than them themselves.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I was curious too. Where did you come up with the idea of having Lilith tempt Jesus in the desert? Is it because of the same principle that Satan can't see him, so he had Lilith do that?
Yeah.
Okay, that answers that, because I forgot that part in there. I do think I remember those interactions with the demons. Now that you talked about it, it just completely skipped my mind that Satan couldn't actually get to him.
Yeah.
Now, where did you get the idea for like the original demons and their ranking system like that?
So when Lucifer goes to, I don't know if I actually use Lucifer. I might just use Satan. When Satan is banished to hell, there are a couple of angels that go with him that are the like OG demons. And then, so they're like the divine created demons. But Anku, I'm trying not to spoil anything. I'm trying to use correct names for everything because you know.
Yeah, I'm going to put spoiler alerts above, so you can just say whatever.
Okay, so Anku and his brother Barashiel are the first children of Adam and Eve.
Okay.
And Anku ends up killing his brother and then killing himself. And he becomes a demon and Barashiel becomes an angel. Mm-hmm. And that was God being like, okay, well, that was like a really big whoopsie. Let's maybe try this again. And then Adam and Eve have Cain and Abel, and the exact same thing happens. Mm-hmm. And so it's like that first glimpse of like, humans are going to human.
Yeah.
And do really bad things to each other and mess up. And Anku's like that first human to demon character. And in the third book, I actually get into that a little bit more. There's actually elitism with and they are called elites actually, mm-hmm. But like the higher up demons, but the elites that are like divine made demons don't like the ones that were human to begin with.
Okay.
So there's still like on both sides, like with the archangels, and then like they're above the guardian angels and the death angels and the dark angels and the virtues. It's the exact same thing. The elite demons who are like the OG
Mhm.
elite demons, they think that they're above everyone else.
Yeah.
So there's always that like hierarchy.
Mhm.
I'm better than you. I was here first.
Yeah.
I'm the firstborn. That type of thing.
Yeah, I was curious. Did that just come from your head, or did you grab that from somewhere else? The structure from somewhere else.
I mean, that structure is in a lot of things, like in the workplace and like with manager, assistant manager.
Yeah.
And in government, there's always that like pyramid of power and stuff. But the idea with the angels and the demons was just me trying to make it
straight from your head. Yeah. No, I mean that's fine. I was just curious if you pulled that from any mythology, and I was curious did you know you almost perfectly explained open theology?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
It doesn't surprise me because I just learned about it. I'm trying to find it. Where is the come to God moment with Emma?
Probably the very last chapter, if it's the thing that I think you're talking about.
Yeah. See, my copy, I found it almost instantly. Anyways, the part where God said, like, I know what's going to happen, I just don't know the details. That is, if you've heard of Reformed theology, Calvinism, Arminianism, stuff like that, that's Hulk smash simplicity of it. Is you have how like the views of salvation. The Reformed side, Calvinism, says that before God made everything, he wrote out a script of exactly what's going to happen and then made it happen. So you have God making Adam and Eve sin in the garden. God makes all, and you have all that stuff. Whereas more on the Armenian side, it's more so the side of like, or no, you have Arminianism is somewhat of a middle ground where it says like God set the rules of right and wrong, and then it's up to us to decide whether we're going to do right and wrong.
Okay.
And open theology is more on the side of what you explained, where like God is stuck to time like we are. He can't see he can get glimpses of the future. He can have ideas of the future because he's also omniscient. He knows everything. So he knows how he can see, okay, this person's doing this. It could end up like this if they do this, but he doesn't know that. And it's something I learned about fairly recently. And I was curious. I thought it was interesting how you just said it.
It's what I believe.
Okay.
Because I feel like God knowing everything that's going to happen kind of takes away free will, because if he already knows what decision you're going to make, then it wasn't your decision to make because he already set it in motion. And I think I talk about this in Great Divide actually, but I think it's like one of those choose your own adventure books. Like God has your life planned out.
Mm-hmm.
And every decision you make, he knows the outcome of every decision, but you're still the one making that decision.
Uh-huh.
And I believe in the multiverse.
Okay.
I think there are different planes of existence where, I never got married and had kids. I never became a writer. We didn't have this interview here today. Because I think God does know all the outcomes, but he still lets us figure that out. So on a different plane of existence, he's watching me, I don't know, at the beach right now.
Yeah.
That would be
who knows?
Yeah. But like, so I don't want to take away like the fact that I think God does still give us free will and does still give us choices and everything. But then that kind of is, and in my opinion, counterproductive to the whole like him knowing everything, because we haven't like had the chance to have that free will decision making yet. Okay. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's long discussions. Smarter people than me are still hashing out. But I don't think knowing something ahead of time is determining it at the same time. Because like I see enough things throughout, like even if you just look at the biblical stories, Adam and Eve in the garden, like that was just one of the many trees they could have eaten from. Mm-hmm. He said, just don't eat from this specific one. But he still put it in there to give them the choice. Mm-hmm. He could have just not put that tree there and then we're in paradise forever. But like he still gave us the choice. and even with Cain and Abel, like he gave Cain the choice: you can do what's right, or you can do like you can let your anger control you. And so like, but he still knows he still knows what's going to happen. But I don't see a conflict in knowing what's going to happen versus and then letting you make that decision. I don't see that taking away free will. But again, that's going to take so many. A lot of people are going to argue about that longer. So you kind of answered my last question ahead of time. There's only going to be 3.
Yes.
Okay, but you also thought there was only going to be 1.
Correct.
Okay,
but I already have like the definitive ending like mapped out. Like I have little tiny like 1 paragraph for each chapter, and then I've already written out the prologue for the last book, and like there's like no way to add any more to this.
Okay.
And it's very like everything wraps up very nicely, because I have had a lot of people read these and they're like, it's so depressing. Like, where is the happy ending? Like, why are all these bad things happening? And that is, I guess, why I decided to write another book, just because I'm okay with not happy endings. I'm a really big anime fan, so like I know a lot of those don't end on happy notes.
No.
I've watched movies before where the ending is very somber and the credits roll and you're like,
that was it. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they don't get out, or there is that thing happening that they couldn't stop and they're all gonna die. And so I originally liked that concept of like either you determine what ends up happening after you're done, or you know, being okay with kind of a darker ending. But I had so many people tell me like, I need a happy ending for all these characters.
I mean,
like, this is so sad and everybody is just so messed up from this thing, and I feel so bad for Emma because she is trying so hard to do the right thing and just keeps messing it up time and time again. And so I did write I am writing this last book as a way to kind of be like, okay, this is how everybody gets redeemed, and it will be a happy ending.
Okay. Well, and also like you're the one writing it. Like if even if you have kind of like a bittersweet, did that really end? Well, plenty of books have ended that way. I didn't see anything wrong with how those ended. Actually, I liked how you ended Great Divide as like it could have been a one-off, yes. Perfectly fine. But like after how this ended, yeah, to me there had to be at least 1 more book, if not 2.
So the epilogue was completely different. Okay. And all of my like street team and ARC readers, when they read through it, they were like, please tell me there's going to be another book. And I was like, I wasn't planning on it. And so after getting the feedback from them, I was like, I don't know if I have enough material for another whole book. And I got to thinking about it and I sat on it, and this actually ended up getting pushed back for publication because of that, because I struggled so much with like, okay, everybody's needing more, but this is the end. So what do I do? So I went back and I rewrote a little bit of the last chapter, and I completely rewrote the epilogue, and I let everybody know, okay, yeah, I think I can figure out a way to make a 3rd book happen. And for anybody who hasn't read these yet, this is a spoiler, so spoiler. But because you have read it, what I'm doing with Great Devotion is it's going to be dual point of view.
Okay.
So most of the chapters will be Emma, but some of the chapters will be Dumas' story.
Okay.
And what it's going to be is his journey from human to sentencing to angel, and how he kind of finds out something about Emma, and then it's her reading his journal.
Okay.
And so at the very end, I'm not going to tell you this, but
okay.
At the very end, she has this very like Harry finding out that he's actually a Horcrux moment.
One of those deals. Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, that's all the questions I had for your book stuff. Now, tell everybody kind of about these 2. Wife loved the plot twist in here, but I hadn't gotten to read either of these yet. So just Tell everybody like the rest of your stuff what you've done.
So this was technically my first book ever that I published in 2009. I went through a vanity publisher, so I paid them $2,000 and they handed me a really amateur, crappy looking book that had a terrible stock photo cover that I did not like.
Oh, yay.
The font was horrible. I mean, just everything about that book looked so bad. And in my mind, I'm like this 19-year-old going like, yay, I'm a published writer.
Yeah.
And it did not get any editing. I did not have any help with marketing. But I had a book.
Yeah.
And so at the time I was like, yay, I have a book. And my very, very, very first author signing was at the Blockbuster that I worked at.
Wow.
When I was
okay.
a teenager. To date myself a little bit. And then my second author signing was in the produce section at a Hy-Vee.
Okay.
Because at the time, there just wasn't a lot of options for authors. It was like you got traditionally published or...
Good luck.
Yeah. So luckily now, there are a lot of publishing options. There is a lot of indie author support, and there are a lot of places that support indie authors now. Because when I got Great Divide published in 2023, I just threw it out there on Facebook and I was like, hey, I'm getting a book published. Does anybody want to have me at their store?
Yeah.
Just try and sell my book. And through Karma Community Market, it just unlocked all these opportunities. And now I'm on the board for KC Book Beat. And our whole goal is to, find and support local authors and find events for them and host events for them and get them out to the community for readers to find. And now Kansas City is become this hub for indie authors like crazy.
Yeah.
And people in other states are hearing about us, and it's wild. But Kansas City is where it's at for indie authors. So last year I emailed the vanity publisher for weeks and was like, can I please have the rights back to my book?
Yeah.
I want to republish it. I want to fix a lot of stuff in it. I want to rewrite some stuff. And it was just weeks of them being like, are you sure? Well, if you unpublish through us and want to publish again, you have to pay for it again. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get that.
I got my own stuff going.
Right. Just give me my book back. And they finally sent me the form, the paperwork to sign. And even then I sent them the form after I signed it. And they're like, okay, are you sure we're going to pull the plug on this? And I'm like, please, please just do it
for the 12th time.
Yes. And so they finally sent me the email saying we're sorry to see you go, but you've successfully unpublished. And so I went in and got it edited because good gracious, that book was a hot mess. But I also rewrote a lot of the story because you could tell that the original version of My Mother's Spirit was written by a 19-year-old girl, who was very emotionally immature and had relationship issues with her mom. I know you struggle a lot with Emma and her personality, but I gotta tell you, when I was 19, 20, 21, I was Emma.
About that? Okay.
And I was not liked. I was not a likable person, but I grew. Thank God, because I wouldn't have liked me at the time either. But so anyways, this book was about that severed relationship with her mom. And the plot was kind of all over the place and didn't really have anything interesting going on.
Okay.
And so when I rewrote it, I wrote in the struggle with her mom, but also the healing of that relationship.
Okay.
And the book has matured just like I have, and I gave it a really good plot twist.
Yeah, she really liked that.
Yeah, and it seems like that's how the story should have been to begin with.
Okay.
It was hiding in there somewhere, and I finally got it out. And I'm so freaking proud of this book because
Yeah.
one, I wrote a whole book when I was 19, and two, I wrote this book and wasn't ever completely satisfied with it and did something about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So and it does have so the common theme, I know these genres are kind of all over the place, but I do have a common theme of trauma
Okay.
and death and like immortality versus mortality. Like that is kind of like also a common theme in these books.
Okay.
Now, Temporarily Forever, I know romances are like really, really popular. That is like the popular genre.
Yeah.
It's always been the popular genre because, you know, the Fabio books, like
Yeah.
the Harlequin romances and stuff. So this was me trying to see if I could do it, challenging myself. It was practice for doing a dual point of view book so I could write Great Devotion.
Okay.
And also, I had a nightmare that inspired this book. So I am like terrified of my family or myself getting killed in a mass shooting.
Okay.
It's like a reoccurring nightmare of mine that someone in my family ends up getting shot. And I had a dream that me, my husband, our two sons, and then our friends who are married that have a son and daughter all went to Worlds of Fun. And there was a mass shooting. And in the mass shooting, I ended up losing my husband. My friend lost his wife and one of his kids. And he moved in to our house with me and my sons to kind of help
each other out.
Because in real life, I know for a fact that, God forbid, something happens to my husband, I can't manage that house by myself.
Yeah.
So he, in my dream, moved in with us to help me financially. And then all my friends stopped talking to me because they thought it was like super inappropriate.
Yeah.
And in my dream, like nothing happened between us. And he's like my best guy friend in real life. And I don't see him as that at all. He's like a brother to me. And I know that's like stereotypical to say, but just in my dream, everybody was like very like, that's not appropriate.
Uh-huh.
And so I was telling my mom about it. And she was like, that would actually make like a really good like romance movie. And I was like, it would. And she was like, yeah, like if the two people ended up together though through that. And I was like, So that is what Temporarily Forever is about. It's about Jenna and Ryan, who have been friends for years and like never saw each other as anything but friends. Mm-hmm. And they lose loved ones in a mass shooting. He moves in with her and her kids, and they have no intentions of anything happening, and then things do happen.
Okay.
And they kind of have to work through grief and feeling like they're like betraying Jenna's dead husband and dealing with people thinking less of them because of this happening. But like I said, it's dual point of view. Most of the chapters are present time, but there's 2 chapters for each of them that are flashbacks to the day of.
Okay.
So I do have content warnings in each of my books, and then on my website I have content warnings, but I have had people tell me like, what chapters are the actual shooting in, and can I just skip over them? And I did write it in a way that if you want to completely skip over the actual shooting chapters, you don't miss anything of the story.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I just want to give everybody an idea of like everything you've done. So if they want to check you out or all that stuff, yeah, we'll get to the other one after get the other side of it. But yeah, so check out all that she's done. I'll leave the link for like website.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, link for website, all ways you can get a hold of her stuff. And yeah, just with that, I'll remind you that God loves you and wants to spend forever with you. That's the end of the video.